Man, the Titans got it all figured out at number 1, but do they have it figured out at 33? We'll talk about that more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Ain't no doubt about it. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. It is Tuesday, so that means Kevin Ostrich from Locked On Ravens is here with me, riding shotgun. We're going to bring you all of this stuff that's going on in the draft that's going to be going on this week in the draft. Teams trading back, guys slipping and falling, all of that stuff you can get here on Locked On NFL. Make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast. We're free to subscribe. We're free to watch, and we're free to listen to. So if you watch or listen, make sure you watch and listen each and every day so you do not miss an episode. Here's where we're going, and here's where we're going to end up. All right? The Patriots and the Panthers hold keys. Everybody seems like they hold the keys to this draft. I'm even hearing that Jacksonville holds the keys. In fact, my man Cattles from Locked On Patriots is going to show you how he says the Jaguars might hold the keys also at number 5. Slipping and falling. Can he get up, though? That's an old DMX song. I'm slipping and falling. I can't get up. But we're talking about Shedeur Sanders here. Everybody says he's falling, but a little bit of this might be that maybe he was ranked too high, but now people are underrating him and ranking him a little bit too low. We'll go over that. And the Titans start the fireworks off with the draft, and Tyler Rowland is already worried about Friday's number 1 pick there, Kevin Ostrich. He says that since the Titans are taking a pick at 1, he don't want any more quarterbacks taken, and he wants them all to be sitting there on day 2 so that when other people want to trade up for him, the Titans have a trade back partner. How do you feel about that?
I understand what he's saying. I mean, I get it, especially when you're talking about there are 2 teams ahead of Tennessee right now in Cleveland and New York, 33-34. So if the quarterbacks are still there and a team wants like Jalen Milroe at 33, that's not even a Titans pick to have. But from a Cleveland's perspective, sure. But I mean, if I'm thinking from my team's perspective, which is the Ravens, I want all of them gone before 27. So the guys fall to Baltimore to pick them. So if 4 quarterbacks go before 27 or before, a team in the late 20s, those guys keep coming off the board, which means guys that you actually want at positions of need for non-quarterback needy teams are falling to you. So the other side of that conversation is for Tennessee, with them being at 35, if the 4 quarterbacks are gone, or even if a Milroe and Dart go 33, 34, that pushes a guy down to you. Let's say a guy like, Gray Zabel. Let's just say he falls to the 2nd round and Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe are still available. You have 2 teams that could potentially trade out of those spots. Dart and Milroe go and Gray Zabel falls you. You don't have to worry about him falling to 35 because he will be there for you. So I think that both sides of the argument make sense. But from the team that I cover's perspective, I want all those quarterbacks gone before 27 so the Ravens can get a guy that they really like. Not that they won't, even if they're still there, but it just gives you more options.
Let's listen to Roll and explain his position, and then I'll come back and give you the flip side of it. Because if only 1 quarterback goes early, Cleveland's picking at the top of the 2nd round, they're probably going to take one, to be honest with you, at that point if they don't move back up. But I'll let Tyler get his spill, and then I'll come back and tell you the way I feel about it.
The best thing that could happen for the Tennessee Titans is for Shedeur Sanders to drop in the NFL draft. All right, with that in mind, we're getting some rumors. Like I said, the most important thing that could happen to the Tennessee Titans in this draft is for Shedeur Sanders to slide. Because what does that mean? If Shedeur Sanders starts to slide in the NFL draft, it's going to push all of the other quarterbacks back. And the more quarterbacks that are available at the beginning of day 2, the better for the Tennessee Titans. Because what the Titans want to do is 2 things. They would like to trade back in the 2nd round. And they would also like to get one of their top options at positions they need, which is not going to be quarterback after they take Cam Ward number 1 overall.
So Tyler, the way Tyler does the draft, Tyler does it in a form that a lot of my friends used to do it, and a lot of guys that I encountered in the barbershop, and I disagree with it because the thing is you don't even know at this point who's going to be there, right? So I don't believe in just drafting positions. I believe in drafting people. So to already think that you want to move back if Shedeur starts to fall, you're forgetting something. That if he actually falls, that means that teams, you don't need a quarterback. The teams that don't need quarterbacks are picking other players. You don't want all of those guys still on the board when you're picking at the top of the second round, because that means less of the guys that you're absolutely going to choose from are gone. They're gone. Because if those 2 or 3 quarterbacks slide, those are 2 or 3 players that could have been Igbuka. That could have been Luther Burden. What if the teams, I want Pittsburgh and I want these teams, I want the Rams to take a developmental quarterback, because I don't want them taking a player off the board that I might want when I get to my pick at number 35. And I can't already plan to move back if I don't know who's there, because then I'm picking positions over players, and I'm all about players first, players over positions, and players over plays.
Yeah, I agree. Best player available there. I think, look, the way that Tyler describes it, and again, I understand where he's coming from, but in my opinion, I do think that for a team like Tennessee, the only way that you want the quarterbacks to be there is if there's one available at 35. There's not a guy that you particularly love there, or there are multiple guys that you love there. And a team says, okay, this is the spot for Jalen Monroe. He's not falling any further. We have to trade up and get the guy. You move back only a couple of spots to get some draft capital in a haul, and you're still able to get the guy that you would have taken at 35 anyway. But with the quarterbacks falling, like you said, that does mean that there's a shot that the guy that Tennessee wants is not there, because they went in a spot that Monroe could have gone, or a spot that Dart could have gone, or, Sanders, whichever quarterback you want to throw in that conversation. Some teams love, and we've seen that teams trade up for that 33rd pick all the time. And usually it results in a quarterback, or that 33rd pick can be a T. Higgins. Like we've seen a lot of value come out of that selection, but we also see teams trade back up into the first round with the 5th-year option, even though things do change. So you heard it last week, Wig. My prediction is that 4 quarterbacks go in the first round. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's more buzz relating to that possibility happening as opposed to them falling into the second round.
And see, from my perspective, if your way happens, then that's funneling more players to you. And what if 3 go and not 4? And you're sitting there at 35 and there's only one quarterback that people think, like if Tyler Shuck is the only guy left, right? That's when you can say, okay, you want him to come up and get him, because if you don't come get him, you're going to have to get somebody in the 4th round. But not if all of them are there, because if all they'll treat that situation. If all of them are there, they'll treat it like running backs. Oh, we can wait. We can get one. The way people are treating defensive linemen right now, no, we ain't taking nobody in the top 5. We can get one of those dudes in the second round that's almost just as good as him. That's the way people would treat it. I would not give away the advantage I have, which is the advantage that usually teams like Kansas City and Philly and Baltimore have. And I've talked about it in the past. The advantage is they sit there and watch all of these dumb teams pick for need, and all of these really good players just seem to fall to them. And they sit there and go, I'll take that every single year. And if you're at 35, you're kind of still in that territory. So you want teams to just start snatching a bunch of 2nd and 3rd round quarterbacks in front of you and sit back and go, I'll take that. But instead, I don't understand wanting to move back when you don't even know what's going to happen yet. All right, man, let's get into who's slipping, who's falling. Speaking of Shedeur Sanders, a lot of talk that Shedeur might fall to the 2nd round. How would Cleveland feel about that? Well, I'll tell you all of that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time: because of the priority seating, man. Save now up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and etc. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On NFL. I'll spell it LOCKED. NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, our striker, we're going to move along here and talk about Shedeur Sanders. I'm going to play a little bit of an extended video from a man here, Spencer German. He was talking about the same subject Tyler was just talking about. Like, what if Shedeur is sitting there at the top of the second round? What do you do? Here's Spencer German from Locked On Browns going to tell you about it.
There's a world where Shedeur Sanders falls to the second round. Would you take him at 33? I know I would. Yes. I am excited as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL draft on Thursday night. And the draft conversation does roll on here. And I'm excited that we'll actually get a chance to talk about actual players here in the coming days. But another hypothetical situation that I've been thinking about, especially this week, because it could actually, it's a hypothetical that feels like there's a chance it could actually happen. Because at this point, all bets are off as to where Shedeur Sanders is going to go. The indications are it's not going to be number 2 with the Browns. It's not going to be number 3 with the Giants. The Saints seem like they could be in play. Maybe the Jets at 7, a couple picks earlier. But the Saints seem like they could be in play. But every single mock I've seen this week has the Saints taking Tyler Ward, going offense, but not necessarily going quarterback. And they're going to figure that thing out differently. Maybe they have their eyes on a different quarterback later on in the draft. But Shedeur Sanders, if he makes it out of the top 10, could end up slipping to the late first round, early second round. And we've been talking so much about the possibility of somebody trading up for Shedeur and maybe even the Browns being part of that conversation. But we haven't talked about the possibility that, like, what if he does actually slide out of the first round entirely and he's there on day 2 to start things off with a chance for the Browns to take him? Would you do it? And it's a complicated question, I think, because there's people that are, I think, in two boats when it comes to Shedeur. He's very divisive and very controversial in this way. There's one camp like me that believes, look, I think he's good enough as a player to be a first-round pick. Not at 2. I wouldn't take him at 2, and I understand as the process is played out and hearing what is being reported about how scouts feel about him and all these things, I understand why he's not worth the number 2 pick. And, I can wrap my head around that, and I, too, would take somebody like Travis Hunter over him because of where the Browns are drafting.
KO, I don't know if I have ever seen a more polarizing prospect based on he could go number 2 and he could go number 36. I've never seen anything like that in my life. This is the biggest variance of trying to guess where a player is going to go that I think I've ever seen in my 40-some-odd years history of covering the draft.
Yeah, there is such a wide variance for him. And honestly, nothing would shock me. Like, at this point, nothing would shock me. Even if he went at 2, I think that's probably the most shocking outcome after all the buzz that we've heard about Travis Hunter or even, Shedeur in the top 5. But, like we were talking about a month ago about, it's pretty certain that, Shedeur's going to go in the top 5. And here we are. Now there's conversations about him falling out of the first round. I mean, it is crazy. And I agree with Spencer. Like, at number 2, if that's not your guy and you're not sold, that's not your guy, and you shouldn't spend the pick on him. But at 33, I think it's a no-brainer. And I know that there's been a lot of buzz about Jalen Milroe to Cleveland. It seems like Jackson Dart feels like the Pittsburgh spot to some. Maybe Milroe goes there. But if Shedeur falls to 21, a lot of people say that that's the spot. Like, I feel like that's like the safe spot for Shedeur. But now we don't even know that. Now we don't even know if Pittsburgh's going to be the team that right. stops the fall if there is one. So I know the Saints with their situation, maybe as Spencer mentioned, it's them at 9, but maybe he falls to the Saints in the second round. I mean, at 40, I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of teams that don't need quarterbacks. It's not a very strong quarterback class anyway. So when you're talking about where does he go, is he the 4th quarterback taken? That seems crazy. I mean, he's better than the 4th quarterback in this class, in my opinion. But, you never know how the draft board plays out. So if he's there at 33, and they already have a Travis Hunter. I run that card up. I reunite those two, but there are so many different outcomes that this could have.
This has a lot of layers to it, and I'm going to go ahead and explore it real quick. And I'm going to take a little bit of liberty to do it. I named my oldest son Dion. I took the I out for a reason. I said, no, ain't no I, it's a we. It's Dion, D-E-O-N, right? I named him after Deion Sanders. He was my athletic hero when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a teenager. Deion, he ain't that much older than me, but I was a Florida State supporter. I hate the fact that, and I'm going to use the word hate, but I hate the fact that because you don't agree with everything that they say or do in their camp, that people think you're a hater. And there are people that have their evaluation of Shedeur, and folks automatically assume that they're just hating on the Sanders family. And so I've been on the other side of that too. And I don't like people doing that to me, but that's cool. Here's the other side of it though. The other side of it is that there are people out there, I'm not one of them, that actually don't like the kid doing this in people's faces. There are people that when his dad and another coach are going back and forth, they don't like the fact that he gets in the coach's face after the game is over with and fights his dad's battles for him. They don't. So there are people that look at that and go, and while people like Spencer used the term that he's divisive, he's not divisive. And I don't think Spencer meant that. What I think Spencer meant was the subject of him is a divisive one. And even if you make a good assessment, you're considered a hater when all you're really doing is doing the same thing to him that you do to others. I didn't like Bo Nix either. Was I a hater because I didn't like Bo Nix as a player? Now, I was wrong, but the thing is, in this business, we reserve the right to be right and wrong about some things, and we have to live with that. But I think that's the polarizing part of it. The part of it is that some people that are really Sanders haters are out there in full force, and then other people that just have a difference of opinion are considered haters too. And there's a lot of people that just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're evaluating guys, it's ever changing, and I don't agree with the fact that you're gonna dock a guy for some of the things that Shedeur is being docked for right now. If you want to dock him for his play, you want to dock him for weaknesses that he has in his game, okay. And that's fine, if you like him, if you don't like him. But, obviously in Shedeur's camp with Dion and everybody, they have that swagger to him. They have that confidence to him. That's been a thing since Dion. Like, Dion was that dude. That's who Dion was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Shedeur, he has that to him as well. I mean, that's a confidence, man. And that doesn't bother me. I know, look, it bothers people. I don't agree with that. It doesn't bother me. But, I feel like you would want some of that. Now, if you don't like some of the ways that his game has evolved over his college career, or if you think he's too raw as a player, or if you just don't think it's the right fit for your system, that's a different thing. And look, like you said, these teams also have the right to say, hey, we don't feel like that's a fit for our system. And, we're not going to do that. We feel like this guy's a better fit for our system. But I feel like you have to give the guy a chance. And the fact that we are talking about, he to me is the second best quarterback in this class. I know Jalen Monroe has picked up steam. I know Jackson Dart has picked up steam. I still like Shedeur Sanders over those guys. But to me, I'm not letting what people are now classifying as like even off-field noise, which makes it sound like he has like character and like issues, which he does not have. That to me makes it clouds the evaluation in an unfair way, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, that dude ain't got no character problems. If there's any problem with Shedeur, it's not even the cockiness to me, because I'm used to that. Where I come from, man, that's like a natural thing that people do. And we call this show the barbershop for a reason. And that's because, I mean, I was there for 34 years, and that's kind of the way people conduct themselves a little bit. And you got to get used to that. My issue with all of that is not the cockiness, believe it or not. My issue is them thinking everyone understands the cockiness, or that when people don't understand it, you don't believe. When you're supernatural, you should expect people not to believe it, because they're not supposed to. And the reason why you know it is because you're supernatural, and you shouldn't expect people to understand all of those supernatural things. All right, we'll talk about that more, the Patriots and the Panthers. Are they two more teams that hold the cards for the NFL draft? We'll talk about it here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Amazon Fire TV and Locked On. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into a gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With 4K streaming, watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and more. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube, third generation. All right, moving along here on Locked On NFL, where it's your team every day. 2 days away from the beginning of the NFL draft in 2025, and some people that do this for a living, we can't wait. Oh, we can't wait. It's like waiting for December 26th, man. It's like waiting for the Friday after Thanksgiving when you ain't got to cook nothing. You just got to warm up leftovers. I'm telling you, man, we love it, but boy, oh boy, it is taxing sometimes to do this. I'm going to give you an example right now of exactly what I mean by sometimes it's taxing to do this. I want you to listen to these two scenarios with Locked On Patriots. Shout out to him. I want you to listen to this whole conspiracy theory, if you will, if that's what you want to call it, of who actually holds the cards in the draft, and watch where he ends up.
The trade winds could be starting to swirl around Gillette Stadium. Teams across the league, all 32, they understand what they want to do in round one. They have stacked their boards. All the scouts have spoken. The coaching staff has spoken. The front office is now in the final moments of putting information together and figuring out what path they want to take. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN was on NFL Live recently, and Jeremy said the Jaguars could be a sleeper to pick Ashton Jeanty at number 5. It's funny because Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, he did a conference call, and he mentioned the Jags as a team to keep an eye on for Jeanty, calling it a potential quote-unquote statement pick at number 5 for the new regime. Adam Schefter, he wrote a long column about the intel that he has gathered over the past couple of weeks, and Schefter wrote that new GM James Gladstone of the Jags might not be predictable. As one league executive said recently, quote, Jacksonville is a wild card, watch, unquote. It begs the question, number one, who's leaking this information? Who's leaking the information that the Jags might use that 5th pick on Jeanty and not Mason Graham? We have a couple of options here, a few options. Number one, it could be the Jags. Second option here is that Jeanty himself, his representation, they are leaking the Jaguar stuff at number 5. Why would that be? Because you're trying to raise the stock of your client. Oh, you think Jeanty's going to go 6 to the Raiders? Well, he's going to be a top 5 guy because the Jaguars have their eyes on our Ashton Jeanty. So this could be coming from Team Jeanty. It also could be coming from your New England Patriots. Why would the Patriots start leaking information about the Jaguars possibly taking Jeanty at 5? Because if you're the Raiders and you thought that Jeanty was going to fall to you at 6, you might show a little bit more urgency to leapfrog Jacksonville in the draft order to pick Jeanty if that's the guy that you truly want.
My man Nick Cattles, man, new host of Locked On Patriots. I couldn't stop listening to that. That's why I made y'all listen to it with me, because every time I sat there and made the clip and I tried to cut it, it just got juicy and juicier. It's like watching those snap shows, like, you know, one of those murder, death, kill shows. Like, who did it? Like, who told the lie? Cattles just said everybody might be guilty of telling that lie. Ostrich, it's lying season, isn't it, man?
Man, here in Baltimore, they have the pre-draft press conferences. I know every team does it, or most teams do it, and they call it the Liars Luncheon out here because you know what it is. It's where, hey, they'll give you some stuff, but they're going to do everything they can to get every advantage they can, and if they can psych a team into thinking they're going to take a guy or they're not going to take a guy, that's what the Ravens did with Lamar. They had all their workouts be hush hush. They had all the visits be hush hush. They don't want anybody knowing that Lamar was on their radar. They were able to trade back into the first round and probably leapfrog a team like the Giants, who were probably going to take him at the top of that second round, and they got him. Even the Marquise Brown trade, if you remember when that happened, they agreed to that deal like the week before, but Eric DeCosta said no one could know about it until draft night. So when I'm talking to Ross Jackson and he says, hey, I'll talk to you again at pick 21, I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, they just traded Marquise Brown. I said, what are you talking about?
I remember that.
And then literally 30 minutes later, Marquise Brown is in Arizona at the Cardinals draft party. So you never know what's going to happen, man. Draft season is awesome. I know you and I both talked about how much we love it, but hey, Genty goes 5 to Jacksonville. You're going to have stuff to talk about. I'll tell you what.
I'll tell you what, you will. I want you to listen to this. You think it's done? My man Cattles ain't the only one doing it. Listen to Julian Council here on Locked On Panthers.
Who will the Carolina Panthers select with all 9 of their picks in the 2025 NFL Draft? When looking at the picks ahead of Carolina, which is very key when it comes to Thursday night and the option the Panthers are going to have, it looks pretty close to what I think may happen. Cam Ward, number 1 to the Titans. Number 2, they had Travis Hunter going to the Cleveland Browns, which should be the case. Number 3, the Giants not taking quarterback, instead taking Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State. At 4, this one was weird to me. They had the Pats taking Mason Graham instead of Will Campbell, but Will Campbell did go off the board with the next pick. Jacksonville taking Will Campbell 5th overall. I'd probably flip-flop those in reality when we actually get to Thursday, but as far as the mock draft that I was using went, they had Graham going to the Patriots and then Campbell going to the Jags. Then at 6, Jalen Walker, who's been the popular pick in Carolina. There's been some talk that maybe he goes earlier than 8 and won't be on the board for the Panthers. He went 6th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. And then 7th overall, Armand Membu, the offensive tackle out of Missouri, who's been linked to the Jets recently. He goes 7th overall to the Jets. So Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Will Campbell, Jalen Walker, Armand Membu, all those guys off the board. And if we get to Thursday night, and that's the case, I would not be surprised at all. But that would mean the Panthers would have to decide what they want to do. And I'm of the belief that they would love to draft someone like Jalen Walker, like Mason Graham. And if they're not on the board, then you wonder, do they take Tetero McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona? Are they interested potentially in grabbing an edge rusher right then and there?
Julian makes that sound so good, but when you get down to it, you know what he made it sound like? He don't know what the hell Carolina's going to do at number 8. And the bottom line is none of us know anything at this point. That's why we're dying for this day to finally get here and get started, KO.
You do so much speculation. You do so many mock drafts and you scout so many prospects. You watch so much tape. And then nothing goes the way that anybody thought.
Nothing goes the right way.
And the crazy part is, and I mean, it's true, it's not only that none of us know what's going to happen. None of these teams know what's going to happen either outside of Tennessee. Nobody knows.
They don't have a clue, man.
That's why they have so many guys on their draft boards. That's why they have plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z. Like, they have so many different options because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if a team's going to call you up with a trade that you didn't think was going to happen, and you say, hold on a second. We had a plan, but now this has popped up on our radar. This has come across our desk. Now we're going to take this, and now you move in a different direction. So you might think, like, if as a team, you might think you know what you're doing. You might think you have it all figured out. Then some team or even yourself, your team might throw you a curveball. And so it makes me feel a little better that, hey, you know what? Maybe we all don't know what we're talking about, but hey, these teams don't know either.
You know what's funny though? After the first round is over, and maybe even the second round, we can definitely look at those boards and tell you this: half the players ain't gonna be no good because they never do. We do this every year, and half them players ain't no good. They just stink. Wherever they go, they ain't no good at all. But yet still, we keep on doing it, man. It ain't nothing wrong with it. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Draft, the page, so you can see our actual mock draft from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On NFL. We got it in, man, and we had a really, really good time. And they're putting that thing out this week, and it's coming out in like little chapters, so you can see exactly what your friends, what your the people that cover your team, what they did for Locked On NFL, and what we all thought about it. We had a good time doing that. You guys make sure you tap in the rest of the week because we're getting closer and closer to the NFL Draft. Kevin Ostrich will get back to it and go listen to those lying Ravens talk about what they're going to do, and I'll do the same thing here in Jacksonville. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us for 31 minutes today. Take care. We'll see you next time.